Okay. Everybody probably heard the crack, which was not actually living tissue, it was dead tissue. My son in the front row goes, "Oh, Dad."
How certainly.
Yeah. Ah, you did it again. Hanging out in the workshop with Dad, and he's breaking branches. So, anytime that you're bending juniper in general, there's always this live-dead interaction that we start talking about, right? And as long as you're working in parallel with the living tissue, you can take the living tissue and you can roll it and put the stress onto the deadwood in the different directions of the grain of the deadwood. So I'm just gonna swing this around for you here and kind of show you what that tear that you heard is actually the deadwood right here, the very rigid deadwood breaking. And then the live vein, that live vein, it doesn't want to tear. It's very malleable, it's very stretchy, it's very woven together with pectins, which is a natural kind of cement that binds your vascular tubes of your water, xylem, and primarily water and xylem, because your cambium and phloem are very thin on junipers and typically very thin on most trees. The core of the vascular system is water transport through the middle of the tree. So when you have all of that structure and that deadwood gives, you can see it's a little shaky here, so I just supported it here, and I'll tie this off here so that it's down. But ultimately I said, my motivation in this is to start to get this piece down so that I have the space, and now you're starting to see the space through here. Now, I don't think I need this whole piece here. I didn't want to make this determination, but I don't want this to take on some sort of like blocky kind of bottom branch. And there's a possibility, I'm not quite sure yet, I will know once I move this, we might not need this period, because when you start to form flow inside of a tree, this piece right here being the lowest, which the lowest doesn't mean it's gotta be the defining branch, but in terms of this tree being a cascade, semi-cascading form, this should be the defining branch. And when you think about this being the defining branch, one of the ways that you nullify flow or you nullify asymmetry is you push this piece out and then you pull it back in. So I'm not super happy necessarily with this piece coming all the way back in, but I don't know that I want to continue pushing out here. And again, a lot of that's going to be answered by how this kind of compresses and slims down in terms of this large spread up in this area, which there are a number of split branches and live dead interactions up in here, so there's going to be more splitting and tearing and Dad. But we're going to work through it as we kind of shrink down the globular nature of this canopy into more of a canopy that has some momentum, has some movement, has some out into the depth and back out again. One of the most important areas in the tree is right here. And it's important because that's what gets me to the back of the tree, and that's what starts to create more of a three-dimensional image in terms of the tree and the shape that I'm creating. So for now, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to leave that. We have enough information to be able to move into this space. The potential to swing this piece out into here, especially with the large base that I have on the tree to support that big push in this direction, is very much something I'm thinking about. But I'm going to move on to this area which already has a preformed kind of crack and separation in it. We're going to see how far we can push it, but we're just going to buffer that because, again, this starts to become one of these mega areas for depth in the design, but I've got a lot of kind of juniper sauce and mojo that I got to deal with here, which is to solidify that live and dead and see if I can control that bend.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. There's one question that's on everybody's mind.
Thank you.
This work that you do.
That's great. These are both 5? These are both 5? You might want to give that to Mara. Mara, you need 5 millimeter? Oh, you're good? Okay, cool. Great, thanks.
You do all this work.
Yeah.
How long does it take for these branches to set in your view?
Well, on the one where the deadwood split, this one, we would have to create some artificial structures for that. That'll never fully set. That'll always be a susceptible branch, which does weigh in on, do we go ahead and just take it off? And if we're going to take off a piece like this is a major live vein. That live vein moves up into here. Notice the motion that has through the live dead interaction. This smaller piece kind of moves up on the underside and through the back. So we